All right, want to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. But to be sure that we're going to keep a quorum, I'm going to go a little bit out of order of the agenda. There's an agenda here. Do you need one?
Yeah.
We should take a
We're staying
roll call.
roll call, all right. Who's here?
Sri Devi, ready?
All right,
Tom Norton,
Paul Gibbons.
Steve Bannon. Julie.
Julianne.
Okay,
Julianne.
Thank you.
That's five. So the first item on the agenda, so that we can make sure we get through this with a quorum, is the minutes of the meeting of what, January?
January 17th.
Right, January
Motion
17th.
to approve. Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, roll call
Yes.
Yes.
vote? Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
All right, motion passes. All right, just to be sure, we can keep going here. We have a park usage request for the use of the Little League complex softball court today. So you're all set?
Oh, the girls.
All right, good.
Yeah, motion to approve. Second.
All right. Discussion.
Is this just for the fenced in field?
It's for both.
All right. So
Softball. For softball, yes, yeah.
As-
2 through 8.
we all know we had some difficulty last year with the use of the Little League fields, principally the minor league field and the maintenance of it. And if you were to go down to Olympian Meadows now, or to, in last fall, you would find that the senior field or the main field is in pretty tough shape. So, Ellen, what plans has the softball organization got for maintaining that on a daily basis?
Okay. We didn't touch it after we were done August 10th of last year because we were told that that field was in the hopper to be redone that fall. So we maintained it through our entire season. We weeded, we raked, we tilled, we mowed. We did all of the above the entire 4 months that we were there. And then we were anticipating them digging it up in the fall, so we didn't touch it again. That didn't happen, so we'll go back again this spring before our season starts. With our parent volunteers, get it cleaned up and maintain it throughout our season again.
What will occur? Well, let me move to Joe. You were not here when all the plans for renovating all the fields down there were made.
Yep.
And they were done, the baseball to be done, which was done, both of them. And then we were gonna move to the softball field and have a discussion about what we were gonna do with the field, so-called junior field, sitting way out by the river. So do you have any plans or any knowledge of what might be in the offering for the big field, the main field?
There's nothing in the works that I'm aware of. Foresight, who did some of the work down there with the walking path, was advised before my time that there was gonna be some more improvements. And right now, it seems to be just limited to putting the bathrooms in.
Can we, because I think what happened was, the plan was, and I think it dropped between you and Sean, the transition. Plan was that the Little League and minor league field were done, then the girls field was gonna be done. And Alan's right, and I think it dropped off, so can you start the process of looking into what needs to be done?
Yep.
And it may not get done for this season, but at least we'll start getting the ball rolling again.
Yep.
Yeah. Just to show the record that Bill Meyer has joined us.
Okay.
Hello, Bill.
Another question we have is, we use the field for 4 months of the year. We're responsible for maintaining it all 12. Even though other people go on there who haven't come before the board and use it, mess it up,
Who,
put divots in it.
who other than the softball people use it for?
Anybody who walks down there, people come off the walking path,
Which would be
let their
true for,
dogs in and fence them in and use it as a dog park.
oh, really?
I've caught several people on many occasions utilizing the fenced-in areas of all three fields as dog parks,
Do we have any
to
signs?
let their dogs run.
Do we have any
Yeah.
signs down there?
The
Yeah.
history of the park is there's always been no dogs allowed at Olympia Meadows.
Yes.
Then they installed the walking path. And that went to, for lack of a better word, went to shit. Because people walk on the walking path with their animal, they park down there, they let their dogs inside the fenced in field areas. Let them do their running and business, and
And they don't clean up after.
then we leave. Get a field all ready for a game that afternoon, and by the time we get back. For the 5:30 start, somebody's run around on it and messed it all up, so, I mean. We do our absolute best with the condition it's in right now, which needs some help because the drainage is off, because the grading's off, and there's the infield grasses. The weeds in the infield have grown in, but again, we do our very best and have for many, many years to maintain it as best we can. And then we have this other entity that comes in and just, if there's a minor league game going on, nothing on the softball field, so the kids who are watching their sibling run around on it. Like I said, the people use it as a dog park.
A birthday party has occurred. My husband and I went down. We are two that help to maintain the field on a regular basis. And I went down on a Saturday and there was a family having a softball birthday party on the field. Digging it up, kicking stuff around. You don't really have control over that.
So, I mean, we're there pretty much Monday through Friday. 5 to 8:30. And we rake it when we get there, we rake it when we leave, we line it for our games, we rake it after the games, after every practice. Our husbands go down and till on the weekends or after a light rain and try to maintain the weeds. And then our efforts are sometimes thwarted because of people who walk in off the path or park down there to go to the path, who utilize it without it coming before you and meeting your guidelines.
The path starts down here, correct? Down at
Bridge Street.
Path starts
No,
at
it
the.
starts
Way back there.
way down
Oh, well, yeah,
by the old, by Walgreens.
right, that's the Riverwalk, right, but with the new path. Now, are dogs allowed on that path? People walking their dogs on a
Yeah.
leash? I think they are, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, you know,
But they're supposed to be leashed, that's another
right,
issue.
well, that's another issue. And I'm a dog owner and I can speak to
You're
that, but I
supposed to
won't.
keep your dog leashed in public, but they come off the path, the dog's unleashed, it runs around, gets in.
A lot of what you're addressing here, it indicates to me that we do have a need for a place where people can take their animals.
Well, that's a whole other story, but I
Oh,
will tell you
no,
right now.
this is just emphasizing that whole other story. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be there, but I think that's, if we should maybe start thinking of addressing that. So it'll be an alternative, so people won't.
But, hold on, doesn't have much to do with this, and what it has to do with is access to the field. And having a dog park or not having one, people who are walking the trail see this as a good area to let their
Right.
dogs run free. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, how are we gonna police it?
It's also, they're not wrong, it's also when baseball is playing, they're running on the softball field, when softball is playing, they're running on the baseball field, it's, you can't close those fields off, it's a public park. But then organizations such as ours are held responsible for maintaining fields that other people don't necessarily take as good care of as these organizations do.
I hear you.
And I'm not comparing any other group, I know you care.
I feel your pain.
Yeah,
No,
I know you guys care about the
Well,
field.
one at a
That's
time,
important.
one at a time, please, so we can hear one another. But Joe, let me ask you, are there any signs on the Riverwalk that speak specifically to dogs?
From the Railroad Street Youth down, I don't remember seeing any. I walked out a couple weeks ago. I don't remember seeing any.
Not that it's gonna change anything, but is it possible to get some signage that indicate that dogs are not allowed at Olympia Meadows and place them where the Riverwalk comes out onto Olympia Meadows?
So the walking path that goes through Olympia Meadows, you don't want dogs on that part of it.
Well,
No,
we
not-
ban dogs from the complex.
I don't think you can ban dogs from the walk.
No,
You can.
You can, because they allow it on the rest of the walk.
I think what
I
Paul's
think
saying,
our best
if
hope
there
is
was-
that,
if there was a sign there that said, you don't take your walks into or your dogs into the fenced in areas.
But if you come to that point, you can say dogs must be leashed and maintained on the path from this point forward.
Yes.
Maintained on the path, not on the field or in the ball fields, the fenced in
As you
areas.
come off the path into Olympia Meadows and you're continuing on the path, we'll put a sign right there.
Yeah, something like that.
and I would go a step further. Once you do that, and if the problems continue, which they will, then I think we need to have the Riverwalk people come in and say, what are you gonna do about this? It's not totally our problem.
Well, one of the other things is what about when the season ends?
Mhm.
Because the problem is going to arise, as it did at the minor league field, is that, and the little league field, so once the season ends, and there's no more games down there, people just kind of like walk away from it, and then
We do.
all the
and
weeds
then-
come in.
Because again, in the last 3 years, we've been told that our field was next in
Right,
line.
yeah.
But even before the renovations to the field down there were in the works, we would leave it. And then each spring, because our season carded, we would get it completely back up to first
So
order.
what do we do with the Little League? After their season's over, do they maintain it for the remainder of the year? Because their request through August 15th, there's plenty of growing season after that.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem, is that they're responsible, once we give them use of the field, they're still responsible for maintaining them. Now, that may be a lot of wishful thinking, but that's part of the job, because we allow them the use of the field.
So that's.
You're allowing us the use of the field for a 4-month period.
Right.
Here's the problem. We don't
We're
have
here,
any-
we're getting insurance, we're coming before the board to use it for the 4-month period, and we definitely maintain it during that time. It's just, all these other factors are now involved in being down there, that other people are utilizing those spaces, but not becoming before you, and they're not held to the same standard that we have to. For 4 months of usage, we're supposed to be down there 12.
But you're raising a point, and that is that it's a public park, it's a town park, the whole area. And you guys get permission to hold your organizational stuff
Mhm.
for that period, for however we allow that. But there's no way they should be responsible for the other 8 months of the year. And the town, it's our obligation to take care of that park for everybody to
So here's the other side.
go there. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
here's
way I
the,
see it.
yeah, the other side of this, and I don't disagree with you. The other side of this is, you're right, but we don't have the ability to take care of it. So what's gonna happen? And we may have to let this happen, is when you guys come back in the spring, it's gonna be a mess.
Right, yeah,
And,
and it has been for 20 years, so we learned to deal with it.
I mean, I think.
But who mows the grass when you're not there?
We mow the grass,
Okay,
but as far as the weeding of the infield and stuff, you don't have people to do that.
no.
So I guess that's the thing. Paul, you got two.
Can I just ask, so I thought in our original, going back a couple of years, our original agreement, regardless of if it was off season or during the season, the town was committed to mowing once a week,
That's correct.
right? So even if it's during the season, we still rely on the town to promote once a week.
Correct.
So I didn't think that we were held responsible for mowing after that. If we wanted, it was my understanding, if we wanted to mow in between, we could use the mower, right?
That's my understanding.
And then,
You're correct.
okay, all right, I just want to make sure. And then, I mean, as in, it sounds like softball is saying too, we would commit to, I mean, I think we put in there no later than April 15th, we would commit to cleaning up the fields and opening them up for the beginning of our season, knowing that if we close them September 1st or August, whatever, that it's gonna grow in, but if we're committing to opening them up in the spring, we're taking on that burden.
That part of it is like the grass and that's the
Yeah.
field. But as far as someone coming there and doing and vandalizing something when in March, you know, we're not there for that.
No, our expectation would be that you will ready the fields for play.
Yeah.
We will mow, no matter what part of the season
Yeah.
it is, we will continue mowing. We're not gonna stop mowing when your program ends, because we'll be doing haying.
Right,
So that is an expectation that you will ready the fields for your play.
right.
You will continue to maintain those same fields until your program ends.
Mhm.
When does your program end?
Approximately August 1st, August 15th.
Okay,
If we play a summer program, which sometimes we have enough to play summer, sometimes we don't. with
So-
the
so-
rest of the month of July.
so the expectation will be, we will mow the fields. You will ready your fields for play.
Mhm.
You will maintain, which would mean edging, weeding,
Mhm.
whatever else needs to be done, lining, until your program ends about mid-August.
Yep.
And after that, it'll be free for all.
Right,
So can I actually?
We will continue to mow the field though,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna do anything, and we will not expect that you will go down and, you know, maintain the field for nobody.
So can I make a suggestion that going according to this, when your season ends, right? That Mr. Aberdale or somebody come there with you and you take an evaluation of, here's how it's been maintained, here's the condition it is now, so we know it, right? Then when you come into spring, and if it's deteriorated, you know, we know it's not your responsibility, it's,
Well, it is gonna deteriorate over that.
but I mean, but what I'm saying, like vandalism or, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's a good point, is to have someone there from the town and the point person, the league, to see it's like, you know, renting a car, you do the walk around.
Right, sign
This
off.
is the damage, this is what it is, believing it, okay, this is what we're coming back to.
So when you come back
Basically
and-
just grass.
Yeah,
and
When you
that's-
come back in the spring, you don't have any surprises. Right, so if we saw that, you know, how you left it and you know what you're expected to do in the spring, but if that workload is all of a sudden tripled over the winter. You know,
So you're gonna walk into a field that's mowed once a week, but you're gonna have an infield that's full of weeds.
but that's their choice.
but that,
Yeah,
If Little League or girls softball says, we're gonna go down there in August and maybe in September and weed it, they can, they obviously can. If they say, we're willing to wait to the springtime and this is the condition it's in, we understand it's gonna deteriorate because of Mother Nature, they can do that too. Whatever
We
they
have,
choose.
and that's the idea behind us having someone that goes in the fall at the very end, before we leave to weed. And then in the spring, even though it's a big gap, in the spring, we hire someone to do the cleanup of the weeds at that point. We're nailing it as tight as we can right when we're leaving, and right when we show up, we're saying, hey, we've got to clean up all these weeds, because obviously we have vested interest to use it as well. We also have to keep up with it.
Yeah, and Paul, I think instead of killing this discussion forever, I think the point is that the town should sign off that the field's in good condition, whatever that definition may be, when they're done, like they're turning their key in.
right,
And then whatever condition it's in from then on is no one's responsibility until they start to,
because
use it again.
I also think like, it sounds like you guys need flexibility as well, depending on if you have a summer program or not. Little League we need to maintain our flexibility for whether or not we have a fall ball program. So I would hate to put, because like you guys asked for a written plan. I would hate to put in there that we're gonna close it every year on September first or November first, but then one year have fall ball, another year not have fall ball, and, you know, be responsible for maintaining it for 3 months when it's not being used. But if we said to Joe, Mr. Abigail, excuse me, I'm sorry, you know, we are not having fall ball this year, we'd like to close it August, you know, August first, can we meet with you at your convenience, that we will close it out?
That's
Just to add to this, that we're talking about the first field, the main field,
Right,
okay?
There's two.
well.
Well,
that's-
that's all I want to bring up.
Yeah.
The second field, the junior field,
Mhm.
is going to have to be an item of discussion among the commissioners as to what we're going to do when we renovate the main field. Because there are some of us who are questioning as to whether or not would be enough use of that to spend the large sum of money to bring that field up to par with the other field.
Okay,
Okay,
Now,
can I just-
right now, all it is, 2 benches, there's a backstop, home plate, pitcher's plate, and 3 bases with areas that are cut out for sliding purposes.
That's all we need.
Okay,
And the
my
only other
question
thing
is,
we did discussing the renovations for the junior field
Mhm.
was a small bit of fencing to put the benches behind so that the
well, I
young
think there are, the
children.
fencing is over there,
Sure.
so the benches are behind,
The bench are behind.
so they're safe.
So can I just ask,
Yeah.
so what Ellen's saying, and I coach,
I think that's temporary fencing now.
yeah, I think it's no fencing that's down there now, I think she's
Yeah.
looking,
No, I think it's,
is it changed?
I
no,
think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what Ellen is saying is that we don't need to spend $25,000
No.
for first and second graders. Because we used to practice, when we had those teams practice, we used to practice in a
The junior.
grass field over on Route 7.
Is 2 through 5,
Yeah.
we're doing fundamentals. The basics of the game. We've ebbed and flowed from 12 participants to 24 and having 2 teams and 1 team. Every other year it's different depending on, you know, what we get to come to the program. But they don't need a full play in field.
It would be a waste of our money and
Grass. Areas around the pitcher's mound, home plate and the bases for sliding. And again, just the permanent fencing for the benches so that foul balls aren't.
but while you're,
What, leave it wide open, we don't need,
Is that this
but
middle? field?
while you are opening the senior field,
yes,
you're also going to then be responsible for cleaning up or edging or whatever needs to be done for the junior field.
of course,
Okay,
yes,
we'll continue to mow the area, but we will not go in and edge out the sliding areas. Now, something you might want to think about, and I don't know, and I'll get involved in it, is that the JV softball field at the high school is supposed to be redone
yes.
so that
It's
it
being
will
done
be
right now, yes,
a skin infield.
right,
So there is a possibility that you might want to consider a discussion with the administration of the high school as to whether or not that field would be available for your junior program if you desire to do that. Just to let you know, I don't know how much, I'm only talking about.
I'm just a little confused. Okay, cause I just wanna know what the fields are we're talking about. When you go down there on the west side, there's the far field is the Little League field.
you're right. So can I just explain it to him real quick? First one's a little league, second one's a minor league, of Little League.
In the middle, that's in the
Middle,
middle,
correct.
and then the,
Third one's a senior softball, then down, way down,
oh, or the other,
yeah, way in the back towards the
the other
trail.
backstop isn't as bases.
Yes,
Correct.
yeah, that,
Okay,
you have a hand up in the audience. if you-
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Bob, go ahead. Bob DiVirgilio, just unmute yourself.
Bob, you still there?
Why don't you move ahead and once he gets unmuted, he can stop.
Okay,
Yeah, his hand just went up, so he's there. So
Unmute.
Eddie?
All right, there we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Good.
So I was the person who took care of the field a lot last year when after Ellen's husband had his surgery. And I can tell you that I spent 3 hours plus a week on that field mowing, lining, and digging up the main field. And I did that most of June, July, and the first part of August. And when I left that field, you could play a really good game on the field. The only real issues with that field, the main softball field, are like home plate and the pitcher's mound. And, you know, I think it could probably use to be leveled at the baselines. But for the most part, that field, once you start grading it with the tractor and that pulling device, it really cleans up pretty well. So like, I didn't know that I needed to take care of the other little field, but like, I have a lot of time. So I've been working on it because I knew you guys wanted us to take care of the field. I don't really know where to go with like how it's going to work, but I certainly appreciate that I wouldn't have to do it all year.
Yeah, I think that
Practice field he's talking about, the far one.
he's talking about both.
The
girls'
softball
fields.
field.
Both the softball fields. The one he spent most time on was the first one as you get down there.
The first one.
Yeah.
The one that's the main.
The main field.
The main field.
And the other field is quite honestly up to you how you want it. I mean, I remember coaching now that you didn't need it to be a skinning field and look like it's Fenway Park. I mean,
No.
you don't need it. It's just-
Right.
The kids have fun doing what they're doing and let's not take that away from them by telling them they have to rake the field every 15 minutes. They're
Right.
having a good time.
Right.
So
So I
there's a
mean,
motion and a second.
as long as what I was doing last year works, I'm going to continue to do that.
I didn't hear any
The
complaints.
Softball people
Yes.
will be happy to take your volunteerism.
Bob's been working with us for several years along with his wife Shannon, so.
That's great.
Do we have any other discussion?
I would like to say something here. I think we ought to bring it up. That there are members of this committee that are trying to get a soccer field established down there. And we've been measuring it, we've been laying it out, this is in the process. And that would be basically where the Pop Warner field would, or whatever, where they've done baseball. And I really think that it's gonna be up for discussion that backstop and those bases that are in the far corner are gonna disappear if we make it, because the
No,
soccer
wait,
field,
we're getting,
No, not
No,
one
I'm
like
just
that.
saying-
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
but I'm just saying that in order to put a soccer field down there, that space is gonna be needed to be a part of the soccer field.
Then Tom, I don't think we should do it then.
Wait a minute.
Well, that's your opinion, I'm just saying.
That part of the discussion is not germane to the request to use this as a softball field. That's a different issue and will have to be addressed at the time we address the renovation of those two fields in whatever form or shape they're going to be, as well as any other modifications down there. So that's a different agenda.
But I'm just saying, it's
Okay.
for your awareness, that some of us
Okay.
are looking to try to
It's
accomplish.
called Living Meadows Little League Park.
All right, let's,
It's meant for baseball. It has been meant for baseball for over 50 years.
I'm not gonna get into discussion. There's a motion pending.
And it's-
Any other discussion on the motion?
Can I just ask one thing
Yes.
about, when you people sign up, the girls for literally, they sign a waiver, or softball, they sign a waiver?
Yeah.
So we have a new waiver for the town. What I'm thinking we would do with the commission's permission is we would give you our waiver, have it signed at the same time.
Okay,
But we can talk about how we implement that
Yeah, makes
later.
sense.
I'm in the building and
Yeah.
I'm more than
Okay.
welcome to accommodate that.
Okay,
You have another question now.
Well, our registration's already open. So if we're gonna have, so we've already got registration happening online, so if we need to get another waiver, let's discuss so that we can get it to all the players.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about it tonight and we can get it right out.
And
Maybe just I can get your email address before you leave.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Roll call.
I'm not sure what is the motion?
To approve
What is
it.
Authorize their use of the facilities to run a softball program
This summer,
this summer.
okay. For the dates that were listed.
Yes,
All right,
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. Tom,
Yes,
I vote yes.
yes,
Julie?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes, unanimous. Okay,
Thank you very much.
all right.
Have a
Good
better
luck.
meeting.
enjoy,
Good luck.
hope they win.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go back now to the agenda.
Berkshire International Film Festival. Berkshire International Film.
Yes,
Okay.
all right, we have requests. Is somebody here for the film festival? No, okay.
I'll
Guys, I
make
have
a
to
motion.
go.
What's that?
I have to go.
Take care, Bill. Next
still-
month it's Monday.
We still have a call.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the use of the town hall park for the Berkshire International Film Festival.
Second.
Second, okay. Discussion. Once again, we're a little bit upset that we don't have, we're gonna have these tents up there for longer than needed,
But it's in an area that's not being used by youth, it's at the town hall park.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And we have alcohol.
Right, but it's town hall park, it's not Memorial Field. That's what I understand.
It's a park,
A new park,
or whatever.
it's only been a park for 2
It's
years.
still a park. Okay, discussion?
Yeah. Joe, there's no chance there's gonna be any work back there.
No,
June.
no, it's looking, as soon as we be ready to do something as late this fall,
Okay, good.
but we won't do it because Memorial Field will be done at the same time, so it'll be this time next year.
Okay. All right, no discussion? All those, all right, roll call vote,
yes.
yes.
yes,
Yes.
No,
Yes,
Yes.
Bill's gone. So that's what,
1, 2, 4 to 1,
4-1.
it passes.
Gee, by our rules, maybe that's not a majority of the board. Did we approve it?
I thought about that. I was hoping you wouldn't think of that.
Only four people voted in favor out of a 9-member board. That's not a majority.
I don't know what our rules are.
it's a quorum, if it's a quorum to have a meeting, I think it should be majority, right?
Believe so.
So let's assume it's passed. If we find our rules doesn't, we'll need to put on the next agenda. Or you'll need to change your mind. But we're all putting on the next agenda.
All right. So the vote is 4-1 pending clarification as to whether that constitutes a approval by a 9-member board.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
Okay, I don't know the answer to
I'm
it
not
either.
gonna make up an answer.
Okay, next on the agenda, parks care and maintenance. That would be Mr. Bethany.
Memorial Field scheduled to go out to bid the first week of June. For construction, September, October, November.
Okay. Have the bid documents been prepared?
They're being prepared now.
Will we have a chance to see them before they're released?
I've understood you've already seen them and approved them.
Hmm?
You've already looked at them, no?
Oh, those things that you left us before,
I'm sorry?
are those the bid documents that you,
No, the plans that I guess the commission has had input on
okay,
is, they just
so
cleaned them up
that's, you're gonna prepare the bid documents
from those, yes.
from those?
Yep.
Now,
I-
my question is, if I'm not mistaken, in the plans, the height of the backstop was listed. Does that mean that backstop is only going to be, I forget how high it is?
I don't know that detail. But,
Because I thought that we were talking about having it higher and having wings on the first base side, principally, to maybe catch more foul balls from going up into the co-op space.
You know, I'll get that
So can
detail.
you look at that?
And I can see if they're, what, where the plans are, what percentage, and we can look at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, now, anything else?
Well, the Olympia Meadows bathroom is in the works to go out to bid, probably in April. We haven't nailed that date down. The lead time on the prefabricated units is 10 to 12 weeks. So it'll be one, you award it and then wait for something to come in.
Okay,
The whole town hall campus will go out to bid in like June, first week of June or so, for construction next year, this time.
okay,
So we'll impact the parks. I shared with you all the inventory of equipment that's in all the parks. There's two parks that are basically up to standard. It's Giggle Park and Housatonic, as far as, standards of current equipment. The rest of it is not.
Including Lake Mansfield?
Lake Mansfield will be.
Well,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's not done yet. So just on Lake Mansfield, we're still missing two parts. They ordered them 3 times and the wrong ones have come in. They think they got the right ones on it. It's all because the unit was painted in reverse. They ordered the red parts when they should have been the blue parts. So we got through that.
so should we place on the agenda a discussion based on that inventory?
We can, I think the commission's next step was to focus on Rose Street and Dewey Parks.
Right,
Weren't we gonna have a public input session on
that's what we're gonna
Yeah.
take up
Right.
next.
that? Okay, good.
Right, so I think based on that, we would, you have around $160,000 right now
Okay,
currently to do park improvements.
right. Before we move on to the next item on the agenda. In the Housatonic Community Building.
Mhm.
I'm assuming the group that's playing pickleball, are playing pickleball.
Yep.
Have the, balls that strike the floor, have they caused any
Nothing,
discernible change in the floor?
no,
Okay.
no,
Are they using a different type of ball than they?
no, the
use
little
outdoors?
wiffle ball type ball, the hard plastic.
Because when they use them outdoors, at least from my experience from the high school tennis courts, they leave marks all over the place.
Yeah, there's nothing on the poly.
Okay,
That's a little bit of a rougher surface too, so maybe scratching it off the ball.
yeah, well, no, it's coming off the whatever coating's on the ball.
Right, yeah, there's been no issue. What's that?
It's off the ball onto the outdoor courts.
Yeah, but we're not seeing it.
They also have a lot of chalk, so that they leave a big trail, whereas at the Whoosy Dome, I'm not seeing anything.
No,
I just saw that one large scuff on the far side near the basket, which was done at the time of the
which was
renovation.
from the insulation.
Yeah, that was done.
Now, in early fall or sometime in the fall, the floor was recently done.
The floor,
The,
it was done this spring. It was done this spring.
oh, it was not done in the fall.
I think they do it before the season.
Resurfaced, I mean, clean, waxed, whatever.
Yep, they repoly it, they sand it down and repoly it.
Okay,
The league pays for the materials.
we paid for the materials.
No, the league, the basketball league
league?
does.
It was Housatonic League
That's correct.
paid for the materials. Did we pay to have it done?
Nope, it was donated services.
So Mr. Carlson is
Yes,
donated his time.
yeah.
Yeah, they've done that every year.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to make
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, they've done it every
And
year.
I pay, the only thing I paid him for was to put the pickleball lines down
Oh, okay.
before he polished, or right after he polished.
Has there been any other work in that building done that was donated by the Housatonic League?
They bought all the chairs, the folding chairs, and then the console that the scores table's on. They bought all that.
Okay,
I can get more information for you, but I think there's a set of bleachers, of portable bleachers that were there, that we disassembled and put up in the loft because they weren't using them anymore.
okay.
I think they bought those.
A
I
statement
can
was
talk-
made by one of the members of the Housatonic League, is that thousands of dollars of work have been done by them in that building, and I'm just trying to find out if that's an accurate statement.
Well, the floor alone is thousands of dollars. The material, at the top of my head, I think the material is $1,200 or $1,300 a year.
Okay,
Plus, then Daryl Carlson.
but other than the floor and some of the other, there has been, they didn't do any renovation of the locker rooms or anything like that.
No,
Okay,
no, again, but there might be other things that I'm not aware of.
all
I
right.
can get you a list if you want.
No, I just was
Yeah.
wondering because of the
They,
statement. that
they
was
do
made.
take care of the floor before and after, things of that nature.
Okay, all right. Anything else that you,
No,
we got something in the new business, I guess, which is,
yeah, we'll take that under new business.
and the purchase of
The
soil,
the what?
purchase of infield mix.
Right,
So.
New business?
We're gonna, that's under new business.
okay.
Okay, all right, anything else on Memorial Field update or anything in the parks? All right, Grove Street, Dewey, what are the plans?
Well, Julie and I have been meeting and trying to come up with a plan of how we want to proceed with
Okay,
how we want to get public input. And so we have a document for you guys. Yeah, that one's front and back, the other is sorry, we could extend this. Yeah,
This one's one.
yeah, yours is back and forth.
oh, okay, I've got.
Yeah, the way it printed.
All right,
I don't know, Julie, if you want to start off. Or if you guys want to,
No, go ahead, Sheila, if you want to, up to you, like.
so we met a couple of times to just try to see, what would be the best way to get public input and find out what the town, what people in the town wanted. And we kind of came up with different categories of people who would be using the parks, which would be children, which would, they would need playgrounds and open space. Another category would be fitness and sports, which would be open space, or court space for basketball or tennis or pickleball. And then leisure space for people who just, want to hang out in the park, who might want a picnic table or somewhere to sit and maybe some shade. We kind of decided to focus on the playground category because we're focusing on Grove Street, which is already a playground, and Dewey, which is right now kind of a blank slate. And so maybe we don't know what the public wants, right? So that's kind of something where we want to find out. We also wanted to, as a committee, talk about this before we invite the public, so that we're kind of on the same page on how we want to present the information to the public. Also get a good budget number of like how much money we have to spend.
okay,
And then these are some of the catalog where there's park equipment that we had, that I had gotten from Chris.
Chris Rundle?
Yeah. And then Julie has also been in contact with a playground designer in Williamstown. So I don't know, Julie, if you want to talk about.
So basically, when we were tasked with asking the community what they wanted, we kind of took a step back and said, well, essentially, just from our experience in terms of playground and the way people that we know and ourselves, how we use playgrounds around Berkshire's, we basically identified like just a core set of design decisions that went into the most successful playgrounds. So I know from experience and from others that, like, for instance, a lot of our community goes to French Park or to Stockbridge Park. They go to Armenia, they go outside of Great Barrington, just because we don't really have the essential equipment that, you know, makes a playground really fun. So we started with that premise that there are really some essentials that are part of every successful playground. And so we thought, like, rather than immediately just tackling a community survey, we kind of know, in a way, like everybody knows what goes into a successful playground. So we thought, like, let's, as a parks committee, kind of just set a basic guideline for landscape design that I think would kind of be successful all around, and we can use as a guide. Because I think if we just kind of choose a few structures and ask the community to point at different ones, essentially there's going to be a vote for everything, you know, at least one. And they all, I think it should be part of a larger design approach. So having heard from Parks and Recreation, from our committee several times, that we want our park spaces to be community spaces, not just for children and playgrounds, but we want everybody. We want the people who play softball. We want the kids. We want people who don't do anything but want to sit and read a book under a shade tree. So we were considering, like, how do we set the guidelines to make our public spaces community friendly, and not only community friendly, but like draws and hubs, because people from Great Barrington go to these other places that are hubs because their playgrounds and their parks are so attractive to their entire community. So we started like that. And so we basically broke it down to these categories of users. Children. We identified children at play requiring playgrounds and open space. People who love fitness and sports. So again, open spaces, baseball diamonds, tennis courts, racquetball, and then the leisure class, you know, who just want to sit on very comfortable benches and walk around and just, you know, sit and watch or read and do other things. And for tonight's, you know, very preliminary discussion, we were just focusing on playgrounds because I know the committee just wants to deal with Grove Street and Dewey Park. So we're focusing on the children, and we sat down several times and we talked about, well, what is essential to a very well-designed playground or childhood space. And also would be a hub in the community, something that would be a real draw. So these spaces, first of all, would be highly sought by parents of young children, after school options for children who are not doing other kind of activities. They just want to hang out in a playground, and for weekends and holidays, and for people who come from out of town, because I know I've been approached several times around town in the past by people who are new to the town, say, where's the playground? And then just from our experiences, we kind of broke it down further and said, what do we love and what do we see that other people love about a really great playgrounds? Of course, it's the climbing and playing structures. It's the games, tetherball, for instance, at Eagle Park. A lot of people love tetherball, and it's a fantastic game. Hopscotch, swings, swinging structures, swaying structures, and balance features like seesaws, and like the rope seesaw at French Park. That's just like a giant rope column that can just like hang and swing. That we've seen in many wonderful playgrounds. So then, of course, from there, we thought playground equipment is obviously the next, as part of a large design. And we were really focused now on like this question of like whether installing plastic playground is really the way of the future, or was ever a way, or was ever attractive. And just from seeing like other landscape designs around different cities and small towns, I think the way to really become a hub and to have like inviting spaces is to kind of move away from that model and go towards something natural and really pleasing and really designed. And that takes money, you know, and it takes a lot of thought and it takes a lot of time. But we thought about like what are the cons of playground equipment that are made of plastic. They degrade, they're very staticky, they're not very attractive, and they just become a generic thing. And I think as a Great Barrington, as a hub of the Berkshires, like, I mean, a really important town in the Berkshires, a real draw, I think it's really important that we just kind of like go for it and just like not just install generic equipment and just like not really think about like the overall design, because like these things are permanent, you know, semi-permanent for a very long time. And it's really hard to undo something once you install it, especially for plastic. And plus with global warming and pollution, it's just, I think we should really think about it of just going in a different direction. I know Karen is really set on getting Grove Street Park up and running and to like just get it renovated. And I feel like because it's already kind of it's already kind of installed, the old equipment is already installed, that might be a place where we can just go immediately forward and choose something from these catalogs and, you know, try to take a thoughtful approach in the design using the existing equipment and catalogs that are available to us. But I feel like with Dewey Park, we should take the time and really think it out, because it's a really nice, very big space. And I think we can do a fantastic job. And I think it could be a real draw. And then, you know, eventually down the road, like think about doing the same thing at Eagle Park. But I think this is really great opportunity. And so we're thinking about creative site-specific spaces, inviting play spaces. And we were just curious. So I reached out to people who work designing natural playgrounds. And I had a very nice talk with Oasis Playgrounds based in Williamstown. They work together with playground designers in England because there are very few people who actually know how to install natural playgrounds here. He says most of the so-called natural playgrounds are basically a collection of like tires and stumps. And that's not what they do. They really want like unique and very interactive playgrounds. They're more interested in that. So I just talked on the phone with David Verbeck, and I put his link on this document. And he basically just ran down like what it would take. Like a lot of times they repurpose existing equipment, so use some of the materials rather than just kind of throwing everything away and starting fresh. He talked about like how he has what he thinks of the plastic playgrounds that he's inspected in the past. Is like they definitely degrade much faster than a natural playground that has been maintained regularly, like every 3 years, oiled and sanded, and that essentially unique natural playgrounds create like these memory spaces and sensory experiences and memorable things that people like remember, you know, throughout their adulthood from when they played as children. And it's that kind of thing that we're trying to introduce here as maybe a model that we should adopt going forward. And because it's probably and we don't really know what the cost is. I don't know what the cost is of the plastic, but assuming that this would take a lot more effort and a lot more money, I would also like to get the ball rolling on the discussion of how budgeting is done for parks construction in Great Barrington, and how we ask for money at town meeting if it would be necessary, like such a big expense that we would need like the approval of the town. So that's kind of my spiel, but I'm sure Sridevi has more to say, and I have to leave like really soon because I'm in Boston and I have to go out to dinner soon.
So just to clarify something, budgeting is an easy answer. We have 160,000 right now in capital. It's carryover, and every year, and I haven't seen this year's budget, so I'm just assuming there's about 45,000, right?
I thought I asked for 100 for park improvements and maybe another 50 for Grove Street surface.
So he's asking for more than normal, but we typically every year got 45,000. This year, Joe's told me we could have 150. So money, I won't say money is no object, but the citizens of Great Barrington have been very generous to us. So I think that's somewhat a non-issue, unless you're talking about spending $500,000, then it's an issue.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah.
it would be anywhere near that. I asked for like a typical budget, and he says it really depends. It really depends on the design. It could be 50, 80, could be more if it depends on the scale and scope.
50
But-
to 80 is something we can do. Yeah, it's
Okay.
reasonable.
So, but, like,
sorry, Paul.
where are we? Are you saying that we should have our own plan before we go and ask for input?
No, I just was saying that, like, I think that the committee should talk about the things that Julie and I have brought up before we invite the public to come, so that, we're not having a discussion about parks and playground equipment with each other, until we should do that first and then have them come. And
We have a survey that was done.
Mhm.
That was done 3 or 4, 5 months ago, maybe.
Yes,
That was-
Right,
I'll
but
share with you.
I think we wanted to invite, like, even though it's town parks, but those are also neighborhood parks. And we thought,
Neighborhoods.
like, I think a lot of people from the neighborhood would want to show up and give their input on.
that's what Karen had been asking.
Yeah,
Originally,
she's been asking for
she
a
wasn't.
input meeting.
So should we at, say, the next meeting, among ourselves, have a discussion and
Yes,
come up with a model? Is that what you're suggesting?
yeah, maybe not
And
like
then present, that's a model, and ask for input on that?
something like that, or not like a full design of a park, but
Right.
just, like, have today to kind of, or this month to digest what we have been, what we presented. Come back as a committee next month, maybe even plan some visits to Dewey and Grove as a committee, or however many people can join. And then by April, have the input meeting where people can come and, tell us what they want, and then we can better answer their questions or tell them, these are the things the committee has been thinking. And
So at are you suggesting that on our March
20th,
20th meeting,
yeah,
we, as a committee, discuss equipment, plans, and then go to a site, actually go to the two parts?
yeah, I think would be helpful for us to,
Provided, March 20th is a, kind of a gamble, so first day of spring roughly.
yeah.
Who knows?
Well, can I just interrupt for a second? If Julie's leaving, we won't have a quorum, and Joe has 2 things to vote on,
Okay,
so.
all right.
So as important as this is, we're gonna hold everything up, and I don't wanna do that.
I'll talk to Karen and we'll do something. I'll probably be back, or Karen or I will be back in touch with either both of you or one of you or whatever. So,
And did you have anything else?
I just wanted to say it would be more like presenting that there are options on the table, like if, asking the community, basically, I'm sure they want a playground there. I've heard it many times before, and we need more spaces, but it's more like saying like, well, we can do it this way, a much longer way, with a lot of design, input from us or from like the natural builders, or if they really want it like a more rush job, then we can also find out like what are they willing to, are they willing to wait, or do they want something faster? Kind of like that, because we won't really, if we go like the natural playground way, it's not going to be like individual equipment that we're going to be voting on or talking about. It's more like, are we going to implement a full-scale design of Dewey Park, for instance? Or a full-scale design of the playground at Dewey Park? Or are we going to go the other option and just plunk down the more commercially available stuff called, like, what is it called? Once at the system, the plastic system.
Well, Karen will be back on the 10th. So that's, a good week to 10 days before we have our meeting. So I'll talk with Karen and we'll set up something for March, if it may include,
Okay,
because I think daylight saving starts before then too. So we might have a brief meeting here to take care of housekeeping stuff and then
okay,
adjourn to one of the two parts of both of them. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Okay, before Julie leaves, we have a request, Joe, or a recommendation.
So, at the last meeting, you wanted me to investigate the infield mix. It's, the same stuff we've got before the beam play, which there's samples of right there. $3,500 a truckload delivered to Olympia Metals.
And we need one truckload.
It's 25 tons. I think we're just skimming everything. We're not replacing anything.
Right.
Well, I think the idea was to use that to take care of the problem on the minor league field
Yep.
that they created when they edged it.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion that we buy one truckload worth of the infield mix.
okay.
second,
Second,
Okay, discussion. Roll call,
Yes.
yes.
yes,
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 okay.
The second thing I have, there's two packets there of pictures of some deteriorating conditions down at Olympia Meadows with the, the different dugouts and dugouts and buildings and things like that. So in the perfect world, do you think we would get after these with the Parks Department and get them done? The Parks Department's worked real hard all winter. They also subsidize the highway work when there's weather conditions and things of that nature. We're not getting to it. I mean, we spent 80 hours up in Housatonic building the storage unit, which isn't unreasonable. It took us 3.5 weeks to get 80 hours in. Because the guys are busy running, no heat calls, things of that nature. So I wanted to toss the idea out to the commission here. If you want to use some of your Parks and Rec money to hire a subcontractor to fix some of this stuff.
how much do you need?
If you want to give me 20 grand, and you will go as far as it can go. And, you want to do 15, whatever you want to give me, it's hard to say until you start with renovation.
So this would be to work on the dugouts.
The dugouts, the snack shack, there's some fascia and stuff that needs to be replaced. The roof on the snack shack needs to be replaced. So we picked the worst and start there.
Can I ask a little legal question? Do you mind? Not to pull Band-Aids off too quickly, but the snack shack is actually yours, right? You built that? You have no plans to update it. I mean, it's really not our building.
Okay,
I think that you might be right, Steve. I think it's our responsibility, but I don't actually know the history and I don't want to say it.
Okay,
And I know that.
yeah, I'm not trying to start trouble, don't get me wrong.
I don't know.
No, we could get back to you on that, right?
Okay.
Ron would know.
He's not here.
Ron knows everything.
what about the storage building that Little League uses?
Okay.
That's all.
That's ours.
Yeah,
So-
so I would make a motion that we spend $15,000, allocate 15,000 down at the Little League field for repairs, for maintenance. Good, I'll wait for a second, but I have something to say.
Go ahead, we have a second for discussion, at least.
Is that 15 out of
For 160.
the one?
Second,
So my rationale is this, as important it is for playgrounds and new equipment, we don't maintain what we already have. We're gonna end up replacing it completely. So, because I'm also gonna tell you, and because Julie's leaving, I didn't have time to say this, but it's part of this discussion. We have to talk about Housatonic at the next meeting too, to make sure that there isn't need to be repairs up there. Instead of letting that deteriorate and we're in the same position as we are on Grove Street. So I think it's important that we spend 15,000 to continue the upkeep of the buildings down there.
And I think as we move forward, maybe we'll allocate a little money every year or something for that. Improvements or maintenance,
Yeah,
just
that makes
to
sense.
keep it up.
is there any chance of doing a reasonable evaluation of these structures? Are they all in need? I mean, they're all in need of repair, but are some of them worth just getting rid of?
There might be,
know, I
that
mean,
first
I think
building when
that's-
you drive in is in tough shape.
Just some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the way it was built, some of it was built on the cheap, rather than
Right.
spend.
Well, I know
Money
you
on a
two
new
talk
roof.
softball dugouts. Certainly need to be,
Yeah, well, there's even one of the fences there, or one of the gates at the softball, it falls right off. It doesn't even stay up, it's.
Yeah.
We can take care of little things, certain things with the crew, but it's, by the time you finish getting your paint stuff done, it's just tough.
Now, I actually appreciate your honesty, because for you to come here and say, and I know you, so I know you're gonna be honest, say, we'll get to it eventually, and then in the fall, you still haven't gotten to it, Little League says, I thought you're getting to it,
Yeah.
at least you're
At
honest.
least we're upfront about it, because you know what to expect.
Yeah, exactly, so I think that's,
I mean, I think it-
that's the way you operate, and I appreciate that.
When I first came here in August, Paul Story said, hey, you think you can get the police station finished painted? And they were painted it through last winter, and as soon as the weather got nice, they left, never went back. So,
Okay,
One thing I would just add about the dirt for the field, thank you for doing all that recon, and, is that the maximum amount of dirt that the truck will hold? And if it's not, is it possible for obviously, you're nice enough to contribute a certain amount of the infield dirt. If we wanted to allocate some additional funds for more dirt, is that up for us would we be able to accommodate that in one truckload?
well, that is the maximum of one truckload, so it would be a second truckload, and I think you're quick with the motion there and everything, but I could probably do a quick calculation on the minor league field to see what it'd take to fill it back in and see where we would come.
Right, if we're doing a load, right?
How long does it take to get a loan?
It's readily available to
So my point would be is, let's get the first one there,
yes.
and then if you need a second one, we'll talk about it.
Okay, go back, we'll talk about
Yeah.
how we can get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
And this will be the same stuff that's spec'd out for Memorial Field too.
Hmm?
It's the same stuff that we spec'd out
Yeah.
for Memorial
I
Field.
think Julie needs to.
Julie, you need to go.
I've got to go, yeah.
Okay, can we vote on this?
yeah. All those, I can't. do that.
For the-
Roll call to authorize $15,000 for maintenance of structures and repair at Olympia Mills.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Enjoy your dinner, Julie.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Now we have a problem.
Can we at least
Because
let
we
her
have a
talk?
guest here.
Yeah, let her talk.
Huh?
Let her.
Yeah, I'm going, we just cannot take any action. Because we're now without a quorum. So you want to come forward? Sit up here a little bit?
I'm Nancy Chiquetti. I live over on Avery Lane. I've been there for 7 years. And I was listening to these ladies, and I certainly understand the one, especially with the dogs. I don't have a place to let my dog live, and I know you've gone through this process in the past. But as this gentleman said right here, he has a dog, and maybe we really should bring it up and have a place for the dogs. We have new apartments that are here. They allow dogs. Dogs need a place to socialize, and it certainly sounds the problem that you're having with the dogs on the open field on Olympian. And, our taxes have gone up, and personally, I don't have any children where, a lot of the money goes for education. When you think about, we don't get stores, we have to pay for that privately, we have to pay for leaf removal privately, we don't get water. I just think it is time that the city, our little town, does have a dog park. It doesn't really have a particular place, but I'm sure, if there was a committee or, I don't know, get a petition or something going, that maybe something can be done. But I think for our town, we need it. And I have to drive all the way up to French Park to let the dog loose. And I would certainly like to have something there considering the high taxes that we have.
Can I just respond? Just a little history. We probably had 2 or 3 informal committees trying to do this. You're not the only one to request this. I'm a dog owner. I have 3 dogs. We walk them on a leash. The problem has been, we have not been able to find a location. Because we have identified some areas at times, but the dog park brings traffic, and neighborhoods don't want the traffic. They don't want the cars. So we've not been able to identify an area. I have no problem if we start up another committee more formally from the parks. But until we can locate an area to have it, one of the areas they talked about was the fairgrounds. We don't own the fairgrounds. And, yes, that would be ideal to put a fenced in area down there. That would be wonderful. But so far, we have not been able to find it. There's not a lot of room in our parks to put an area that's big enough that Tom may disagree with me, but I don't think there is. And
I don't, yeah, and.
that's really the whole problem. It's not for lack of trying, it's not for lack of money.
But if there was a petition and the neighborhood says no, I think a lot of neighborhoods probably, it's like not in my backyard, but truthfully. When I go to French Park, there might be, if there are 6 cars at a time, with their dogs, it's not, I don't think there's gonna be a huge amount of traffic. And I would imagine everybody would say not in my neighborhood, but what about the other people that have rights also? I mean, would a petition with 100 or 200 names on it, would that make a difference?
If you had a location, it would make a difference.
Well, what about where the courthouse is, for example? There's a parking lot right there.
We're putting we're putting a children's park in there. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we
Park,
were.
that's one of the ones.
We don't have to. We could change that to a dog park, but it doesn't seem, it's a neighborhood that has children and it's now a park. No, my dogs don't run loose. I walk them. So I understand that a lot of people want to have their dogs run loose.
Socialize in order to have healthy and happy dogs and good dogs.
My dogs need to run.
Yeah.
They run, chase each other, jump on each other. That's what they need.
I should give you a disclaimer. I have a fenced in yard. So
Yeah.
there's a disclaimer. Right,
And
not everyone.
I bring mine down to the Housatonic Park with a frisbee.
Yeah.
And it's probably breaking the rules and.
Most certainly is.
And I throw the frisbee and he's quite an athlete and he grabs the crowd, attracts the crowd of people and the little kids come over and want to throw the frisbee. And my dog is just ecstatic. And then I get him in the car and go home, but
Can I suggest?
I'm breaking the rules.
Yeah, can I suggest that we put this on a future agenda even next month when we do have a quorum? Because we're going to be discussing this.
Before you leave, I want you to. This sheet here, the 3 sheets, this is tonight's agenda and some other items. But just to bring you up to date of the previous serious attempt that was made by a citizens committee to find a spot for a dog park. And so you can read it.
Back in here, 2008, right?
Yeah, it was way back
Yeah.
then.
That was the most.
And then there was a discussion, there was a possibility, if I'm not mistaken, of doing something over the cemetery.
On Blue Hill, yes, it was.
But that fell apart because there wasn't really enough room.
Well, you would have
And the
had,
neighbors didn't want it.
well, you would have had to park the cars on Blue Hill Road, and Blue Hill Road isn't wide enough to park cars.
Right.
That was really the problem, was a safety issue.
I don't have a dog, but my 3 kids all had dogs. But they all had places where the dog could run because the yards were big enough.
And then there's a whole category of hunting dogs. People, they're not on a leash, right? You just bring her out or whatever and go looking for, birds and, I mean, there's
I think
places
that-
you can
I
do
think
that.
that one of the solutions to this is that gotta find, perhaps there is some generous citizen in town who would be willing to donate or sell for a modest cost an area to put a dog park in. French Park is out of the area. I mean, it's out of the residential areas. But we don't have that luxury of being able to do it. I live up on Howard Avenue and it must be that everybody that's a neighbor of mine has a dog. And they all walk them up to the lake. And I'm sure that some of them do what you do. Let their dogs run free in the little park area. And then they walk them back home. But, I don't have an answer. If you're welcome to try, and we'll put this on the agenda, to try to find an area.
Location, you need a place.
Yes,
Olympia Meadows is really not big enough to do what it was created to do, which was originally, it was one ballpark down there, that was it. And it was, I don't even know how we got possession of the land, to be honest with you. And then we started building other fields down there, and you've got the part that you were talking about, which is beyond the field, the main Little League field, was an area that we talked about putting it. But it doesn't appear that that works out because now we're walking down into that area.
River walks down there, plus, problem with that whole area is you have a one-way driveway that's
Yeah.
used for two-way traffic.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's tough.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's
And
a
it's like-
dangerous area.
Yes.
And then you get people walking up and down there with their cars, both trying to pass each other with people walking right
Yeah,
by.
yeah, that's, bringing any more traffic down there than we have to is just asking for
Down
trouble.
there, making sure no one's coming up, there's some
Yeah.
traffic.
I don't even think they should allow parking down there for Riverwalk.
I thought the gate was locked, so what do I know? I thought the gate was locked, so what do I know?
No. That's a good-
So can we put this on a future
No,
agenda
we'll
when we have?
decide on, we'll be on the next agenda,
All right, thank you.
because we have enough to discuss on that agenda.
All
if
right.
you want to take.
But you're right, that should have
Yeah,
been
I've got one,
just
here,
location.
begins here and goes about 3 pages.
Thank you. Good evening.
All right.
Thank
Is
you.
there anything else that we,
I think we're skirting
I
the,
think we should probably
I think we should,
adjourn, so.
we're skirting along.
Without further ado, as my friend here would say, by unanimous consent, we are adjourned. I don't know where you got that, but.
It works, doesn't it? It's kind of.
Yeah, we